I never thought that at 29 I would have to move back into my childhood home, but life always has unexpected twists. A year ago, I had a stable life in New York, working in a creative role I loved at a major advertising company. But then, with just one phone call from my mom, everything changed completely. "Haley, your dad is in trouble. He lost everything." Her voice trembled over the phone, and I knew I had no other choice. I had to return to Texas. My dad, a once successful businessman, had run a chain of family-owned furniture stores across the state. But then the market crashed, debts piled up, and within a few months his company went bankrupt. The spacious home my parents had once been so proud of was no longer theirs. They had to sell it to pay off debts and move into my grandmother's old vacant house. When I returned, the atmosphere in the house was heavier than ever. My mom, who used to be a confident and radiant woman, now looked exhausted from countless sleepless nights of worry. My dad barely left his study, drowning himself in his failures. But perhaps the biggest surprise was Ava, my younger sister. Ava, 26, had always been the pampered one, never having to worry about money or responsibility. When I walked into the house, I expected to see her scrambling to find a job, helping our family through this tough time. But instead, I found her sprawled across the couch, wrapped in a blanket, scrolling through her phone with an expensive smoothie beside her. "Oh, you're home." Ava glanced up at me, flashed a half-hearted smile, then went right back to her screen. At that moment, I realized that every financial burden in this household now rested on my shoulders. I was the only one with a stable job, and if I didn't help, my family wouldn't survive. So I did something I never thought I would. I drained my savings, terminated my apartment lease, and moved back into my old home in Texas. I told myself it was only temporary, that I just needed to help my family get back on their feet before returning to my life. But I had no idea that temporary would stretch on indefinitely, and that the weight on my shoulders would only grow heavier with time. In the first few weeks after moving back to Texas, I tried to adjust to my new reality while keeping my family afloat. I continued working remotely, taking on extra freelance projects to ensure I could support my parents and Ava. Each month I deposited $8,000 into my mom's account, a significant amount, more than enough to cover household expenses. But within weeks, the unreasonable demands started. "Honey, can you send a little extra this month?" my mom asked one afternoon as I wrapped up a stressful meeting. "The grocery budget is a bit tight." I frowned. "Mom, I already sent $8,000. How is that not enough?" She sighed, her voice light as if it were no big deal. "Well, prices have gone up a lot, sweetie. And besides, Ava needs a little spending money too. You know, she's still looking for a job. She has her own needs." I froze. Ava was still looking for a job? No. I had been here for over 2 months, and in all that time I hadn't seen her apply for a single job or attend any interviews. Instead, I had watched her spend hours scrolling through TikTok, shopping online, and occasionally going out with friends. "Mom," I said slowly, trying to keep my composure, "Ava could get a part-time job to pay for the things she needs. I've already covered all the living expenses. The least she could do is take care of herself a little, right?" Immediately, my mom frowned, her tone turning reproachful. "Haley, how can you say that? Your sister is under a lot of stress too. She's used to a comfortable life, and this change isn't easy for her. You can't be so selfish." I felt a surge of anger rise within me. Selfish? I was working day and night to support the entire family, while Ava did nothing but spend the money I earned. But instead of arguing, I took a deep breath and decided to let it go. I didn't want to add more tension. But things didn't stop there. One evening, I accidentally overheard a conversation between my mom and Ava in the kitchen. "Don't worry, sweetheart, I already transferred the money to your account," my mom said softly, but loud enough for me to hear. Ava chuckled. "Yeah, thanks to you I could finally order that bag. Thanks, Mom. She won't even notice." I froze in place. For a second, I couldn't believe my ears. The money I sent to help the family was being secretly given to Ava for shopping? I stepped into the kitchen, making no effort to hide my anger. "What did you just say?" Both of them turned around, my mom's face going pale, while Ava just shrugged indifferently. "Haley, don't misunderstand," my mom started, but I cut her off. "No, I heard it loud and clear. You're giving the money I sent to Ava, while telling me there's not enough for groceries?" I stared at her, disappointment filling my chest. Do you even realize how hard I worked to earn that money? My mom looked flustered, but Ava didn't even seem the least bit remorseful. You're overreacting, it's just a little money, you make so much, why are you being so stingy with your own sister? I clenched my fists. This isn't about the money, it's about fairness. Why do you get to sit around all day spending my money while I work to keep this family afloat? Mom, why do you always defend Ava? My mom sighed. Haley, you're the older sister. You're always strong and independent. Ava is different, she's more delicate, she needs more help. You can't treat both of you the same way. That was the moment I realized. It didn't matter how hard I tried, I would always be the one overlooked in this family. Ava was the cherished child while I was just the one carrying all the responsibility. And I started to ask myself, do I really need to keep putting up with this? One evening after work, I had just stepped into the house when my mom rushed out with an unusually bright expression on her face. Haley, do you know the news? Ava is so lucky. She just won a free trip to Hawaii. I stopped in the middle of the living room, furrowing my brows. A trip? Yes, she won an online sweepstakes. Her flight and hotel are fully covered. She deserves a little break, don't you think? My mom said, her voice full of pride, as if Ava had accomplished something truly remarkable. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A break? While I'm working myself to exhaustion to support this family, Ava, who refuses to get a job, gets to go on a free vacation? My mom sighed, shaking her head. Haley, you're always so negative. She's been under a lot of stress too. What's wrong with letting her enjoy herself a little? I let out a dry laugh and didn't argue further. I knew that no matter what I said, my mom would always take Ava's side. I told myself that if Ava was really just going on a free trip, then there was nothing for me to worry about. But a few days later, things became far more serious than I had expected. One midweek morning, while I was working, my phone suddenly rang with an unexpected call from my bank. I had never received a random call from them before, so my instincts told me something was wrong. Hello, is this Miss Haley? The customer service representative's voice came through the line. Yes, this is she. I'm calling to verify some recent transactions on your credit card. Over the past 4 days, your card has been used for multiple purchases totaling $15,000. We wanted to confirm whether these transactions were authorized by you. My heart nearly stopped. $15,000? I haven't made any large purchases recently. There was a brief pause before the representative continued. These transactions primarily took place in Hawaii, including luxury restaurants, high-end fashion stores, and spa services. I froze. Hawaii. Ava. Without a second thought, I immediately called my sister. After a few rings, Ava finally picked up. Hey sis, why are you calling this early? Her voice sounded lazy, completely unconcerned. Ava, don't pretend. You used my credit card, didn't you? There was a brief silence on the other end before Ava let out a small laugh. Wow, you figured it out fast. I gripped my phone tightly. Are you kidding me? You spent $15,000 on my card without asking? What were you thinking? You're overreacting, I only used a little. Besides, your credit card was about to expire soon. Wasn't it better to make the most of it? Ava replied casually as if it was no big deal. I clenched my teeth, feeling the anger spread through me. Do you even realize that using someone else's credit card without permission is a crime? Ava chuckled lightly. Oh, sis, you're always so uptight. But come on, we're family. Helping each other out isn't a big deal, right? Isn't that what you always say about working to support the family? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Taking a deep breath, I tried to stay calm. Listen, Ava, I'm canceling the card immediately, and you'll have to figure things out on your own. You wouldn't dare, Ava said in a defiant tone. If you do, I'll call Mom. Who do you think she's going to side with? I didn't say another word. I hung up and immediately called the bank to freeze my card. There was no way I was going to let Ava keep taking advantage of me. When I got home that evening, my parents were already waiting for me in the living room, their faces filled with anger. Haley, how could you do this to your sister? My mom snapped the moment I walked through the door. I crossed my arms and raised an eyebrow. Do what exactly? You canceled the credit card while Ava was still in Hawaii. She has no money. She can't even get home. I arched a brow, finding the whole thing ridiculous. Oh? And what about Ava spending $15,000 of my money? That's not a problem to you? My mom avoided my gaze. She just got a little carried away, that's all. I let out a dry laugh. Got a little carried away? Do you hear yourself, Mom? If Ava can spend $15,000 of my money, why can't she take care of herself? At that moment my dad finally spoke up, his voice more serious than before. Haley, family is family. Can't you forgive your sister just this once? I stayed silent for a moment before pulling out my phone. All right then, why don't we all listen and decide if this is worth forgiving? I played the voicemail Ava had left me. You're such a cheapskate. Can't you just let me have a little fun? Mom and Dad don't even care, so why are you making such a big deal? It's honestly embarrassing. The living room fell silent. I saw my mom's face go pale while my dad furrowed his brows. It was clear they hadn't expected Ava to have that kind of attitude. I crossed my arms and looked straight at them. So? Do you still have anything to say? For the first time, they didn't know how to respond. I couldn't keep living like this anymore. No matter how hard I worked to support my family, they still saw me as nothing more than a walking ATM, always expected to provide without question. Ava shamelessly spent my money without an ounce of guilt, and my parents defended her at every turn. But what truly made me realize I had to take drastic action was their reaction to Ava's voicemail. They were silent. No apologies, no regret, just shock at being caught. I decided it was time to change the game. For years my parents had assumed this house belonged to them, but they had forgotten one crucial fact: the house had been in my name for the past 2 years. After my dad's company went bankrupt, they couldn't afford to pay property taxes, so I stepped in to cover their debts, but under one condition: they had to transfer the house's ownership to me. At the time, my parents had assumed I was just helping them out, not fully paying attention to the legal documents they had signed. I had kept this information to myself, never intending to use it, but now I had a reason to. While Ava was off enjoying her vacation in Hawaii, I quietly reached out to a real estate contact. I spoke to an investor who had been eyeing this property for a while. The sale happened faster than I expected. Once the deal was finalized, I hired a moving company to pack up my parents' and Ava's belongings and send them to their next destination, my grandmother's house in San Diego. My grandmother was not the kind of person who tolerated laziness. She had started a small Italian restaurant in her youth and ran it with an iron fist. If there was one thing I knew for sure, it was that she would never allow my parents and Ava to slack off. 5 days later, when my parents and Ava returned from Hawaii, I was already standing at the front door waiting for them. "Welcome home," I said, crossing my arms with a smile. Ava rolled her suitcase into the house, looking excited after her vacation. "Hawaii was amazing. Did you get the gift I bought you?" I smirked. "Oh, a gift. What money did you use to buy it? Actually, don't answer that. I have something more important to discuss." My mom took off her coat and looked at me curiously. "What is it, Haley? Why do you look so serious?" I pointed toward the window. Outside, on the lawn, a sold sign was staked into the ground. My dad froze. "What the hell?" "This house has been sold," I announced calmly. "You don't have to worry about living expenses here anymore." "Because we don't live here anymore." My mom's eyes widened. "Haley, what are you talking about? This is our home." I shook my head. "No. It's my home. 2 years ago, when I paid off the property taxes for you and Dad, we signed the ownership transfer to my name. And now, I've sold it." Eva practically screamed. "You can't do this." I crossed my arms, looking at her calmly. "Can't? But I already did?" My dad, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke. "Then, where are we supposed to go?" I shrugged. "You don't have to worry about that. I've already made arrangements. Your luggage has been sent to Grandma's house. She's expecting you in San Diego." My mom's face went pale. "San Diego? No! Haley, I can't live there. I can't work in Grandma's restaurant." I shrugged again. "Then find another job. Or figure things out without me." My dad turned to my mom, whispering something, but I could see the panic in his eyes. As for Ava, she was furious, yelling, "You can't just kick us out like this. We're family." I let out a dry laugh. "Family? Is that why you drained my money? Or why Mom always defended you while ignoring me? If you truly saw me as family, then I wouldn't have been the only one carrying all the weight." My mom looked stunned, but she had no argument left.